A young Marine sits by herself in a military tribunal chamber, encircled by high-ranking officers whose gazes make it clear she is an outsider. The general overseeing the hearing leans forward with a faint, knowing smile and delivers a question designed to shame her publicly. "How many confirmed kills do you have?" The air drains from the room as everyone waits for her to crack. But when she finally speaks, her answer doesn't merely surprise those present. It freezes them in place. From which corner of the world are you watching this story unfold today? If stories of silent resilience and unseen sacrifice speak to you, consider subscribing, because what happens next will challenge everything you believe about honor, power, and the fighters history prefers to erase. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly inside a sealed chamber buried deep within Naval Station Norfolk. The walls are painted a dull slate blue, cold and impersonal, engineered to strip warmth from anyone who enters. 3 cameras fixed high in the corners record every second, their red indicators pulsing steadily. At the center sits a solitary steel table. Behind it, alone, is Gunnery Sergeant Alara Vance. Her uniform is immaculate. Her posture is straight without stiffness. Both hands lie flat on the tabletop, fingers evenly spaced. She doesn't shift or glance around. Her face is composed, unreadable, the expression of someone who has mastered the art of being overlooked while standing in plain sight. Encircling her in a crescent formation, 23 senior officers occupy tiered seats. Navy admirals in pristine white dress uniforms, Marine colonels with dense rows of ribbons across their chests, JAG attorneys flipping through heavy binders stamped with red classified markings. Some lean back with folded arms. Others murmur quietly, their whispers crawling across the room like background noise. A few study Alara with looks ranging from disinterest to barely concealed disdain. This feels less like due process and more like a snare tightening shut. At the front of the room, elevated behind a massive oak dais, sits Lieutenant General Harold Brennan. 59 years old, a decorated Marine icon with decades of command etched into his bearing. His silver hair is combed back in a style frozen in time. His face is severe, all sharp edges and hardened lines incapable of warmth. When he speaks, conversations stop. When he commands, obedience follows. Authority radiates from him effortlessly. And now, every ounce of it is aimed at the lone Marine seated below. The accusations against Alara are deliberately vague: conduct unbecoming, insubordination, deviation from operational directives. Hollow phrases crafted to stretch in any direction needed. The hearing has dragged on for nearly 40 minutes, yet she's been asked only formalities. Name, rank, assignment. Each response comes in a flat, even cadence, revealing nothing. Gunnery Sergeant Alara Vance, 5th Marine Expeditionary Brigade, Advanced Reconnaissance. Her voice is steady, precise, like coordinates transmitted over comms. Brennan flips through her personnel file without meeting her eyes. Each page turn is slow, deliberate, a performance for the room. He pauses at one document, jaw tightening as he scans its contents. Something there clearly displeases him. He snaps the folder shut, the sound cracking through the chamber like a judge's gavel. Still, he doesn't look at her, only at the narrative the paperwork provides. He leans forward, elbows resting on the bench, fingers interlaced. His tone is smooth but patronizing. "Marine, your service history doesn't add up. 3 commendations, 2 official reprimands, multiple combat deployments, and yet almost no detailed mission reports attached. How do you explain that?" The question hangs, dense and accusing. Alara answers without pause. "I don't, sir." Brennan's eyes narrow. "You don't?" "No, sir." A ripple moves through the room, chairs shift, a cough breaks the silence. The tension thickens. Brennan rises slowly, letting his rank dominate the space. He steps down from the platform, each measured movement closing the gap between himself and the table. "You were stationed in the South China Sea in 2023. Care to clarify?" "No, sir." "Red Sea Operations 2024. "No, sir." He stops just short of her table, arms folded, looming over her like an executioner carved from stone. "You believe silence makes you intriguing, Vance, or merely obstructive?" Alara doesn't respond. Her expression remains unchanged. Her hands stay planted on the steel surface. She doesn't blink. Brennan begins to pace, his voice growing sharper with every step. Here's my assessment. You've hidden behind security classifications, buried yourself in red tape so no one can scrutinize what you actually did. I've seen your type before. All reputation, no substance. One fortunate assignment stretched into a career, praying no one looks too closely. He stops abruptly, leaning down until his eyes are level with hers. His words are surgical, meant to wound. Several officers nod subtly. One scribbles notes on a legal pad. Another leans over to whisper, earning a quiet smirk in return. Lara's jaw tightens, barely noticeable but real. Her fingers press harder into the metal. Her breathing slows. Still, she remains silent. Brennan straightens and turns back toward the panel, voice confident, almost theatrical. If you intend to remain mute, so be it. This board will deliberate based on what's in front of us, and what's in front of me is someone who has no place wearing this uniform. The statement lands like a sentence passed. The room feels hotter, tighter. Alara's gaze remains fixed just beyond Brennan's shoulder, focused on nothing and everything. In the final row, nearly lost among the forest of uniforms, sits a man who has not spoken once during the proceedings. Rear Admiral Soren Hale, early 50s, graying beard, eyes sharp as tempered steel. He has remained perfectly still throughout the hearing. But as Brennan finishes speaking, Hale shifts. He opens a slender folder resting on his knee, the kind reserved for truths that rarely surface. He reads a single page, and something in his expression changes. His jaw sets. His fingers clamp around the edge of the chair. He shuts the dossier with measured care and rests it against his thigh. His gaze fixes on Mara Vance. He doesn't blink. He doesn't retreat. Chairman Reeves calls for a recess. 15 minutes. The chamber empties in a rush of voices and shuffling feet. Uniformed officers gather in tight knots outside the doors, fragments of conversation drifting back inside. 3 years operating forward and not one post-mission report. That isn't security protocol. That's a deliberate erasure. Reeves isn't wrong. Someone buried this. Or she crossed someone powerful. The murmurs grow heavier. Each one presses down on Mara like added weight. Inside the room, she remains seated, alone. A young ensign sets a paper cup of water in front of her. She doesn't touch it, doesn't acknowledge it. Her palms stay flat on the table, but now her fingers curl around the edge. Her knuckles are chalk white. Admiral Rowan passes her position at an unhurried pace, boots striking the floor with intention. He doesn't stop, doesn't say a word, but his eyes flick down to her hands as he passes. He notices the tension. The strain. He hesitates, barely a heartbeat, then continues on. The hearing reconvenes. Officers return to their seats, the noise settling into a muted drone before dropping into silence. Reeves resumes his place, sharper now, sensing advantage. He leans forward again, like something circling wounded prey. Let's discuss your final assignment. You were embedded with a special operations unit as an attached liaison, correct? Yes, sir. And during that assignment, you stated you participated in direct action missions. I didn't state anything, sir, but you were engaged in combat. The room tilts toward her. Every set of eyes locks in. Yes, sir. Reeves' smile stretches. How many engagements? Mara pauses. I don't have a precise figure, sir. An estimate, then? She remains silent. Reeves turns toward the panel, his tone soaked in sarcasm. Really? A forward recon Marine who didn't bother to keep track. Still nothing. He pivots back, planting both hands on the table, leaning close enough that his shadow falls across her face. This is the issue. We have a Marine who presents herself as a combat veteran, yet offers no documentation, no reports, no corroboration, only silence. He straightens slowly, letting the tension stretch. So I'll ask you plainly, Gunnery Sergeant Vance, since you believe your reputation stands on its own. He pauses. The room tightens. How many people did you kill? The words hit like an explosion. The chamber goes dead quiet. It isn't a question, it's a snare. Designed to disgrace. Answer and she's boastful. Refuse and she's exposed. Some officers watch with sympathy, others with hunger. Admiral Holt leans forward, eyes never leaving Mara. She doesn't flinch, doesn't avert her gaze. Slowly, deliberately, she lifts her head and meets Reeves' eyes for the first time. Her voice is steady. Controlled. Surgical? 73. If you've ever seen someone hold their ground while the entire world closed in on them, drop a comment below. And if you want to see what happens next, stay with us. The room freezes. The number lingers in the air like smoke after a blast. 73. No one moves. No one whispers. Breath stall mid-chest. Reeves blinks. His confident expression fractures into something uncertain. His lips part, then press together. He hadn't expected an answer, certainly not that one. What? His voice slips, just enough to notice. Mara doesn't repeat herself. She doesn't have to. 73 confirmed, she says evenly. All from a single classified joint operation. The atmosphere shifts. Several officers straighten. A colonel in the third row freezes, pen hovering above his notebook. A legal officer stops turning pages, staring openly now. Reeves stumbles back a step. His hands drop from the table. The color drains from his face like water escaping a broken seal. He tries to speak, but nothing comes. Mara breaks the silence with 5 words that shatter the room. Operation Phantom Trident. Everything detonates at once. Admiral Holt surges to his feet, chair screeching backward. The folder slips from his grasp, documents scattering across the floor like debris. His face turns ash-gray in an instant. Cut the recording, he commands, voice sharp as steel. Now. A junior officer scrambles toward the cameras, hands shaking as switches flip. Red indicator lights blink out one by one, plunging the chamber into a deeper silence. This one is heavier. Darker, the kind that comes right before everything breaks. Holt strides down the aisle between the rows, boots striking hard against the floor. Clear the chamber. Now, everyone out except senior command. Harrington turns toward him, his face tightening with equal parts disbelief and fury. Admiral, this is an active tribunal. You don't have the authority to? Voss cuts him off mid-sentence. His voice is calm, controlled, and vibrating with restrained violence. General, take a seat and close your mouth. The room explodes into motion. Officers exchange stunned looks. Murmurs ripple outward like shockwaves. 2 legal advisors rise abruptly, clutching folders with unsteady hands. A Marine major pauses at the doorway, torn between protocol and instinct. Voss points sharply toward the exit. Out. Now. The doors open and close again and again as personnel file out in rigid silence. Several glance back at Ree as they leave, their expressions shifting from confusion to something closer to realization. In less than 2 minutes, the room is empty. Only 8 remain. Harrington is still standing near the front, somehow diminished without an audience. Voss occupies the center aisle, immovable, granite still. Ree remains seated at the table, palms flat, breath measured. 5 additional flag officers stay behind, each senior enough to recognize that what's coming exceeds their clearance, yet too significant to ignore. Voss steps forward. His voice lowers, becoming far more dangerous than any shout. Does anyone here besides me hold cosmic-level black clearance? Silence. No hands rise. No one speaks. Voss nods once. Then what I'm about to say never leaves this room. He turns to Ree, and for the first time since the proceedings began, something shifts in his expression. Not warmth, but respect. Operation Nightfall Spear was a non-attributed maritime strike conducted in international waters near the Spratly Chain in August of 2023. He begins to pace, hands clasped behind his back, each word heavy with consequence. It was unauthorized by Defense Command, denied by State, and classified beyond any category officially recognized. Harrington opens his mouth. Voss raises one finger. You don't speak right now, General. You've spoken enough. The words hit like a physical blow. Harrington's jaw tightens, but he falls silent. Voss continues, his voice gaining momentum, filling the chamber with a truth that has never existed outside sealed vaults. In mid-2023, naval intelligence intercepted encrypted traffic confirming a coordinated strike on the USS Theodore Roosevelt carrier group. Time frame: 36 hours maximum. He stops pacing and faces the remaining officers. The enemy positioned a command ship disguised as a commercial trawler in international waters. From that platform, they were directing submarine assets, missile targeting, and electronic warfare, aimed at not one, but 3 carrier groups simultaneously. A vice admiral near the wall inhales sharply. Voss doesn't acknowledge it. We couldn't strike officially. That would have triggered open war. We couldn't wait on diplomacy. 4,000 sailors would have been dead inside 48 hours. He moves closer to Harrington's bench, boots echoing in the silence. So we deployed phantoms. Voss turns to Ree again. His voice changes, no longer just respect, reverence. Staff Sergeant Mara Vance was embedded with SEAL Team 6 as lead breacher and close quarters assault specialist. She was selected because she'd spent 18 months training alongside foreign special operations units in hostile shipboarding tactics. He pauses. No one else had her profile. No one else could accomplish what was required. Harrington stares at Ree now, really seeing her for the first time. His expression hovers between disbelief and quiet horror. Voss presses on. The insertion occurred at night in 12-foot seas from a submerged platform. No air cover, no contingency extraction, no margin for failure. He lets the words hang. They boarded at 0300 hours. The engagement lasted 72 minutes. His voice remained steady. Staff Sergeant Vance was the sole trigger operator moving through a fortified command deck occupied by hostile combatants. 73 confirmed eliminations, every one of them necessary. He pauses again. By 0430, the command network was neutralized. The carrier groups were safe, and Nightfall's spear was erased. Voss lifts Ree's personnel file from Harrington's desk, holding it up like an exhibit in a courtroom. Every operator was debriefed under threat of court-martial. Their service records were altered, their commendations issued under fabricated citations, their after-action reports destroyed. He drops the file onto the desk with a sharp, final thud. Staff Sergeant Vance saved 4,000 American lives and prevented a global conflict. His eyes lock on Harrington, and she's been legally forbidden from ever speaking of it. Harrington finally tries to respond. His voice is small, defensive. I wasn't aware. Voss steps closer, looming now. You weren't aware because you didn't bother to look. You saw a Marine who wouldn't bend, and you decided to crush her. His tone hardens like forged steel. Her record looks inconsistent because it was scrubbed. Her reports don't exist because they were burned. She doesn't discuss her service because she's spent years guarding this nation's secrets while you've been guarding your pride. The silence afterward is total, no movement, no breath. Harrington has nothing left. His authority collapses inward like a star burning out. Voss turns away from him and faces Ree, Staff Sergeant Vance. She rises instantly, posture flawless. Yes, sir. You're dismissed. All charges are nullified. You're reassigned to strategic operations under my direct authority, effective immediately. Yes, sir. Her salute is sharp. Perfect. Voss returns it without hesitation. Ree turns toward the exit, and then something extraordinary happens. Every officer in the chamber rises except Harrington. Not because regulations insist on it, not because hierarchy demands obedience. They rise because respect pulls them to their feet. The rare kind of respect that exists beyond forms and statutes. The kind forged through sacrifice and unspoken endurance. Mara moves toward the exit, her boots striking the floor with hollow echoes. As she reaches the doorway, Admiral Rourke speaks again, his voice quieter this time. Haven. She pauses, turning just enough to acknowledge him. For what it's worth, thank you. She answers with a single nod, small but heavy with meaning. Then she opens the door and steps through. It closes behind her with a muted click, and the room releases a collective breath. Harrington remains standing near the bench, staring at the vacant seat she occupied moments ago. His fingers tremble. His complexion has drained of color. His mouth moves, searching for words that refuse to form. Rourke gathers his documents with slow precision, each movement deliberate. He doesn't glance at Harrington. He doesn't address him. He walks past, stopping only to deliver one final declaration. This hearing is concluded. The official record will state that all charges were dismissed due to classified material unsuitable for this forum. You will not discuss what transpired here. You will not revisit this case. And if I learn that you attempt retaliation against Staff Sergeant Haven in any form, I will personally see your career end in public disgrace. Is that understood? Harrington doesn't speak. He barely nods, like a marionette whose strings have been severed. Rourke exits, leaving him alone in the hollow courtroom. The cameras are dark. The officers have dispersed. The space feels larger now, colder, like a mausoleum. Harrington collapses into his chair, burying his face in his hands. Outside, in the corridor, Mara walks alone. Her footsteps reverberate against polished stone. She never looks back. Through the glass wall of the courtroom, Harrington is visible, still seated, still shattered. The man who demanded her disgrace now sits amid the wreckage of his own authority. If you've ever witnessed arrogance crumble in real time, share your story below. And if you want to know what awaits Mara next, stay with us. The hallway stretches long and empty. Mara's boots strike the floor in steady rhythm, each step measured. Framed photographs line the walls, naval victories, newly commissioned ships, admirals immortalized in ceremony. She ignores them all. Her gaze remains forward, posture straight, breathing controlled. Behind her, through the courtroom glass, Harrington remains frozen in place. He sits hunched at the center of the room, staring at the table where she once sat. His hands press against his temples. His shoulders quiver faintly. The man who once dominated the room now looks diminished, fragile, something never meant to carry real weight. Mara pushes through the double doors at the corridor's end and steps into open daylight. The sun is sharp after the sterile glow of fluorescence. She pauses, allowing her eyes to adjust, allowing herself to remember what it feels like to exist without judgment bearing down from every direction. A breeze rustles through the trees along the base perimeter. The air smells of salt and freshly cut grass. She draws in a slow breath, holds it, then releases it. Her hands, tense for hours, finally loosen at her sides. A black sedan waits at the curb. Admiral Knox leans against it, arms folded, watching her approach. He doesn't speak at first, only nods once, a wordless acknowledgement with no expectations attached. Mara stops a few feet away. "Thank you, sir." Knox shakes his head. "You don't owe me anything." "You never should have been in that room to begin with." He opens the rear door. "Get in." "We're not done yet." She slides into the back seat without hesitation. Rourke takes the front passenger seat and the driver pulls away smoothly, leaving Naval Station Norfolk behind. The ride is silent. Mara watches the world pass beyond tinted glass, strip malls, gas stations, rows of identical houses. Ordinary life, untouched by classified operations and redacted records. Knox doesn't turn around. He doesn't ask questions. He lets the silence stand, understanding that some moments need space more than words. 20 minutes later, the sedan turns onto a tree-lined avenue and stops before a building Mara recognizes instantly. The Pentagon. Rourke looks back at her. "Ready?" She nods. "Yes, sir." They pass through security together, checkpoints, scanners, corridors alive with purpose. Officers salute Knox as he moves. He returns each salute without slowing. Mara follows half a step behind, noticed but unquestioned. An elevator takes them 2 levels down, opening onto a restricted hallway marked with warning placards. Rourke swipes his access card at a reinforced door. It unlocks with a click. Inside is a sleek conference room. Polished table, wall-mounted displays streaming classified feeds. A dozen people are already seated, senior officers, civilian analysts, intelligence specialists, a woman in a dark suit with a Defense Department badge. They look up as Knox and Mara enter. No one stands. No one salutes. This room operates by different rules. Rourke takes the seat at the head of the table and gestures to the chair beside him. Mara sits, composed, expression unreadable. Rourke leans forward. "Everyone here has been briefed on Phantom Trident. Staff Sergeant Haven joins our joint task force effective immediately." Her expertise in maritime threat analysis and close-quarters operations makes her critical to this mission. A Navy commander in his 40s, balding, sharp-eyed, clears his throat. "With respect, Admiral, her experience is primarily field-based. Strategic command requires a different skill set." Rourke doesn't hesitate. Her operational record includes the successful execution of the most classified strike mission in modern naval history. If she can dismantle an enemy command and control web in 72 minutes under fire, I see no reason to doubt her ability to evaluate threats from behind a desk. The room goes still. The commanding officer gives a slow nod, the objection dissolving without another word. Marcus presses on. Our priority right now is identifying